What up? Uh, so I'm gonna keep this brief because it's just a theory and I don't have a lot right now, but I've been looking into some stuff about the Pinkerton history, and I played Red Dead. Obviously, it's very captivating. Played the first one, played the second one. When I was just a wee lad, I played the first one, and my point with this is, I think Dutch, the character of Dutch, is kind of modeled after some of the persona non grata, the unofficial agents of the Old West. And I remembered too in Red Dead Revolver, you play red, obviously, and there's towards the end of the second act, there's a government man. It might be a mayor. I don't think it's the president. It could be the president. I don't think it's the president, but it's like a mayor or a governor. Gives you a pardon letter and tells you, that you're going to cause chaos in the West to allow the army to basically march behind you. So you see this theme in Red Dead 2, right? Like towards the end with the Indian tribe and the conflict with the armies. And the red herring constantly we see is that, like you're looking for a rat. There's a lot of blame, the rumor of a rat. And I started thinking about Whitey Ford, and these histories of these criminal informants, like these high level federal paid undercovers, and also of stool pigeons and rats in the Cosa Nostra, and in American organized crime. And I got to thinking that the government, the Pinkertons, the agents of law in our country, and bounty hunters. Police departments are formed by slave catchers and union breakers. That's who formed like 95% of the initial police force in this country was formed by outlaws, union and strike breakers, and slave catchers. So, yeah. So then you go look at something like Whitey Ford, or even the Pentito trials. There was always a man on the inside, and I think the most suitable candidate for that, and it really makes his insanity and his change of personality through the first game, and all the trouble, and why he shoots Micah in the end, is that I think Dutch was the rat the whole time. And I think he was a narcissist and a sociopath, and he basically probably had like a disassociated personality, and was dealing with a lot of existential strife. He knew that his vision of the world would never come to pass, and I think he just accepted it to some extent, that he saw himself as a patriot. And this is how I imagine it. At some point when he was a young man or a criminal, someone with a lot of power gave him a mandate. Maybe the Pinkertons, maybe it was a future politician or a governor, or something along those lines. But it's just there's too much. Like, every job, he walks you into every trap, and he shoots Micah and lets you have the savings, because I think in his heart at the end he knows he's a defeated man, and he knows he's become what he hated. So that's just my take on it. It's an amazingly well written narrative experience. And another thing I'll touch on too is that I don't make a lot of content here specifically. I mostly do a lot of research to aid others, and I make a lot of rhetorical and political kind of discussions under another channel. But I notice, my main interest in life is the human condition, and I notice like a lot of younger people, because there's like 13-year-olds, 12-year-olds. Like when I played Red Dead Redemption, I was in my mid 20s, right? And when I played Red Dead Revolver, I was a teenager. But I see a lot of people writing on the internet or in game journalism, which is garbage, about, oh, the game's too long and Arthur gets sick and that's not what we want and blah, 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 and I started thinking about art that changed me as a person. Like when I read As I Lay Dying, and when I read Heart of Darkness, like I literally felt my sense of personality and my appreciation, or whatever it was, that those works caused lasting changes in the way that, in my psychology and the way that I look at the world. And I think when video games graduate past their interactive media, so we say video games, it's almost demoralizing of what they're capable of. We have immersive simulated worlds. And I think this game has brought up a lot for people who don't have that world into art. For whatever reason, we've become a different people. We don't do a lot of reading. We don't do a lot of reflection. We don't spend a lot of time in the museum. We don't spend a lot of time in the library. So in a sense, we have a great thirst in our culture. And what I see too in the comments and the articles and the YouTube videos and the reactions of people, I would say they're not as well read, or they're just maybe not as cultured, is they're having like a very strong gut reaction to Arthur's tuberculosis and of dying, of that sense of loss and of death. And to end with, why I really have enjoyed experiencing that narrative. I appreciate the simulations and the video games as art, and art is beauty, and as humans we crave beauty and a sense of order and meaning. And you see too with Arthur's own personality changes when he learns he's terminal towards Dutch and everything. Everything we say and do, and our actions and our words, what we think and feel, it becomes almost infantile when we're faced with our own mortality. And with that kind of permanence and those notions of an ending are really foreign to a lot of people within our culture. So I would just say, death is a part of life, and it's why it makes it worth living. We can't, like a lot of people, oh, if he didn't collect and Dutch sent him to do a loan and all this, he would never died. But, think about uh, Jules and Vincent in Pulp Fiction, right? They talk about the tyranny of the selfish and the inequity of evil men and all this. And Downs took a loan because he was weak, and Dutch gave him a loan through Strauss because Dutch was a usurious person and a hypocrite. And Arthur was the tyranny of evil men, and he didn't care. He just wanted that paper. So it goes to where you put your loyalty, where you put your oath in life, and we reap what we sow, you know? So it's a very well-crafted story, and on multiple levels, it's a powerful transition, you know, into familiar territory of John, and what we know about everything we experienced in Red Dead Redemption, the first, and even in that game too. Back to my first point, you find documents throughout the game that make you suspect that Dutch has been working with the government for a long time. And just from my recollection, you know, I played that game almost, you know, I'd say what came out in like 2009, 2010. So it's been a long time. But I think I'm good with numbers, and I think in my recollection, the document was like from the 1882, 1885, somewhere around there, 1880s mid. So and it was even, you know, into the point that I remember John saying, as you pick it up and you read it, you know, John said something like, "Well, isn't that interesting?" You know, whatever like that. But they didn't really get into it, you know, because the whole point of that narrative was this pursuit of redemption for pardon. So it was constantly in the back of my mind. You know, Micah is a red herring. He's obviously it's too obvious, but I do think, and I don't want to drop spoilers for people who haven't found this on their own. I haven't seen a lot of it on the internet, but there's some stuff in the game you can find about Micah in Red Dead 2 that suggests that he lost family, perhaps, to the Vanderland gang. So it could have all been a very convoluted attempt at revenge, so to speak. But I'm not leaning that way. I think if anything, Michael was working for the Pinkertons, but like he said he was within the narrative. But I think that goes beyond. I think Dutch has been and was always working for another contact in government, and I think Hosea knew about it, and I believe that's why he had him killed in Blackwater in Saint Denis, and also did not want John freed or attempt to spree him when he was arrested, because there was, for some reason, they needed John in jail to gather information. It's just there's too much about Dutch that doesn't make fucking sense. So you know, he really strikes a lot of the same notes as Whitey Ford. So that's just kind of my opinion on the matter. Dutch is a fucking rat, probably working for a high level of government, most likely an administration that's probably removed or out of power, and he's just a rogue agent, like a leftover piece of a deep state that never was. That's just my opinion. Have a good day.